The Prime Minister Modi has left for Germany to attend G7 summit. Prime Minister is going to be meeting Indian diaspora in Germany, addressing event in Munich on the COVID crisis, climate, energy, Ukraine crisis, all of that on the agenda for the Prime Minister. So that is the latest that is coming in. Prime Minister in Germany to meet Indian diaspora. A lot on the agenda. COVID crisis, post-COVID recovery on the agenda, multiple bilateral meetings also with many leaders, climate crisis, energy, Ukraine, all that is on the agenda for the Prime Minister. All right, these are the visuals that are coming in. The Prime Minister has landed in Germany. We're getting you all the very latest details of the Prime Minister's welcome in Germany right there. Officials shaking hands, welcoming the Prime Minister. Certain members of the Indian diaspora are present right there as well. He's going to be meeting with 12 leaders in Germany. And then after Germany, he's going to be heading to the United Arab Emirates. So there you go, visuals of the Prime Minister landing in Germany. Exclusively, we have these visuals that are coming in. Rousing welcome for the Prime Minister on the sidelines of the G7 summit. You can see all the action right there and how he's being welcomed. He's landed in Germany at the moment for the G7 summit. He's going to be meeting the Indian diaspora as well. Geeta Mohan is now joining us. Geeta, very importantly, the Prime Minister is at the G7 summit and in the middle of the Ukraine crisis as well, and the impact of it around the world that we're seeing. How crucial is this meeting and what is the possible outcome of these meetings?
Well, a very important meeting that that India has been invited as a guest for, the G7 grouping that meets annually and always has guest nations. This time around it's Argentina, Indonesia, Senegal, South Africa and India. So making it to this very important meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be focusing on, while the conversations on the sidelines will focus on food security owing to Russia-Ukraine crisis. Apart from food security, there will be talk on environment, energy, climate, health, counterterrorism, gender equality and democracy. There are two sessions that Prime Minister Modi will be a part of as a guest nation. And then he is, before going to Schloss Elmau, which is where the summit is going to be held, he's also going to interact with the Indian diaspora in Munich. So again, this has become a very important part of the diplomatic toolkit when it comes to India and India's foreign policy, engaging Indians who are living in countries that the Prime Minister visits. And so he is going to begin with the engagement with the Indian diaspora. And after his Germany visit, he'll be going to UAE, but that's the second leg of the visit. For now, focus remaining on G7 leaders and the bilaterals that will take place on the sidelines.
If you could give us a sense of the kind of bilaterals India is likely to engage in?
Well, as of now, there are no confirmations per se of which are the leaders that he is going to meet, because we do know that he's already had a very important bilateral with Biden. But we know Trudeau is going to be there. Macron is going to be there after having won after having been re-elected president, although he's lost a majority. So there could be a bilateral with the French side. The UK is going to be there. So there are a lot of bilaterals that could take place on the sidelines. But as of now, Chetty, no information or confirmation about which are the bilaterals that have been confirmed yet.
All right. So that confirmation is still to come in. And Geeta Mohan is our foreign affairs editor. To give us a little bit of perspective, Geeta, you mentioned this is crucial. And the reason why you say this is so crucial, if you could elucidate that further.
It is very important because it comes at a time when we are seeing a huge shift in how global blocs are working. We're looking at the G7. This is coming right after the BRICS that India attended. So India has been a part of the BRICS summit where Prime Minister Modi just met with Russia and the Chinese leadership, although it was a virtual meeting. And now he's meeting the Western leaders. In fact, before that, he was also meeting the European leaders. So there is a lot of engagement when it comes to India on how India is viewing and looking at all these aspects and how India sits at the center of what has become one of the biggest problems today, and that is food security. Wheat, because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, has become a scarce food product, and India certainly without impacting domestic global prices or domestic needs and supplies, is looking at becoming one of the key exporters when it comes to food, and how to ensure that vulnerable countries, that is what Foreign Secretary Quatra said before the Prime Minister began his journey, where he said that we are looking at providing food to vulnerable countries without impacting the domestic supplies. So that certainly is going to be a very important part of the conversations, because in the coming days, Chaiti, we've been talking about this, it's not the energy security that is going to be of a grave concern right now. In the immediate offing, it is the food security that is of a huge concern. Also, in about 3 months, winters will set in Europe, and that's when one will have to see how they react to whether if they are going to continue taking Russian gas, not take Russian gas, or can they actually survive without Russian gas.
So that's a very important part on the agenda, Geeta, as you rightly mentioned. There is also one thing on the agenda, which is post-COVID recovery. What are you picking up on that front?
COVID and global economic recovery, in the largest sense of the word, are going to be very important aspects, because when Prime Minister Modi spoke with leaders, whether it is the recent BRICS summit or even the other engagements in the recent past, COVID recovery, and speaking of how to really ensure that the global economic system actually revives despite the kind of jolts it has suffered in the recent past owing to COVID, is something that is going to be part of the discussions. And in that part of the discussion, Chaiti, one very important aspect will come about and has been coming about, whether it is the Quad, I2U2, the Indo-Pacific realm and the blocks, it is the supply chain resilience. That one country or the world cannot depend on one country to be the key supplier of most of the medical equipment, or be the manufacturing hub of most of the electronic items, and China was that. So supply chain resilience is something that will be discussed, and India is a country that these countries are looking to becoming the next big manufacturing hub, or a key peg in terms of the supply chains.
That's very, very interesting.
That certainly is going to be a part of the conversation.
That's extremely interesting. And Geeta, after this, after the G7 summit that is in Germany, the Prime Minister is going to be headed to United Arab Emirates as well on 28th of June. What's on the agenda?
Well, that's, again, a very interesting meeting of his fourth as Prime Minister. That, Chaiti, speaks volumes of the kind of engagement India has had with West Asia, particularly with one of the key West Asian countries, that is the United Arab Emirates. There is no specific issue on the agenda. The ruler of UAE passed away not so long ago, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has become the new president and ruler of Abu Dhabi. You know that the ruler of Abu Dhabi technically is the ruler of the UAE as well. And so Zayed Al Nahyan has now become the president of UAE. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his way back, there are always stopovers that the Prime Minister has if it's a long journey, and quite a few times it is in this part of the world. So the stopover this time is a very critical and a crucial one, where he will be paying condolences for the passing away of the old ruler, but also a congratulatory message for Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for having taken over as the president of UAE. The engagements are only going to be more enhanced given the kind of cooperation we've seen in the recent past with UAE.
All right, so Geeta Mohan, the National Affairs Editor, with all those details right there.